Hello sweet friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am so glad that you're here today. If you are not new here, thank you so much for stopping by. Your girl has bought books again. And so I really wanted to do a quick little book haul for you guys. I am putting myself on a small book buying ban because we know that large ones just end in massive failure over here. But I am trying to dial it back because I do not have room on my bookshelves for any more books, which is a real problem. And honestly, there's not even that many books because I actually don't have that much shelf space. But right now, getting another bookshelf is not an option. So I need to make room on these shelves. And in order to do that, I'm gonna have to actually read the books that are on these shelves. And in order to do that, we have to stop buying books that are pushing them further and further down the TBR list. You know what I mean? So this is gonna be a book haul that leads me into a small little book buying ban. I have caveats to the rules. Shocker to no one, but there are a couple of things that I'm gonna leave myself open for. For example, if it's the next in a series that I'm currently reading, I am allowing myself to buy it. And if it is a place that I have points, I'm allowing myself to use those points, baby. Use those points. And if it's a super anticipated release, like I have an anticipated release coming out later this month, and I am gonna let myself buy that because I've been looking forward to it so greatly. But with that being said, we're not just gonna be buying willy-nilly for at least a month while I can kind of make my way through a handful of these. At least that is the plan, okay? But that being said, I have bought quite a few recently. Thankfully, most of these have actually been from like half price books or a library book sale. So they've been on the cheaper side. Very thankful for that. But that really doesn't help my shelf space problem. All that being said, let's talk about books, besties. So believe it or not, I actually have a ton of fantasy on this list because I recently read The Kiss of Deception, and then I also recently read Belladonna, and reading both of those had me in such a fantasy mood that I kind of went on a little bit of a shopping spree with fantasy, and I'm very excited about them. So we'll get to those. I think I'm actually going to start with nonfiction. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these because I actually recently hauled these in my last vlog that I posted, but I do just want to touch on them just in case you didn't get a chance to watch that vlog because I am really excited about these. So the first one is Knowing God by J.I. Packer. This is the IVP signature collection edition, and I have Hearing God by Dallas Willard in the same collection, and I just really love the matching covers. There's something about that makes my type A heart so happy, and I just really like them. Like, the colors are fun and it just looks very elegant with the gold detailing around the side that you can't really see in the camera. But J.I. Packer is somebody that I really respect. He actually has shaped quite a bit of my own theology, and I just glean so much wisdom from his works. Now, Knowing God is actually going to be a reread for me. I read this a few years back on my Kindle and absolutely devoured it. And I'm very much looking forward to having my own physical copy. I actually thought I already had a physical copy, but when I brought this home, I sure enough did not. So I'm very excited about this. Also, this is a used copy and it has notes, highlights, underlines from the previous owner, and I absolutely love that. So very excited about this one. And then next up we have Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. I also love this edition. This is the Canon Press edition, but Orthodoxy has been on my TBR for quite a while, and I recently was listening to one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Knowing Faith. It's so good. If you are looking for theological podcasts to binge, that's a great one. But the podcasters were talking about this book specifically and G.K. Chesterton in general, and they were raving about it. One of the co-hosts says that he rereads it every single year and has for like years, which I feel like is a huge testament to the contents of this book. And then also one of them was saying that this is the best written argument for Christianity that he has ever read. That was enough. I was like, okay, I just have to get my own copy. I have to get my own copy and I have to read that. So I'm really excited about this one. And orthodoxy just pretty much means like, what are the tenets of the Christian faith, that in order to really call yourself a Christian, you have to believe these things. These are the orthodox things that all Christians, no matter what denomination, they all believe these things. And so I believe that that's what he explores in this, and I'm just very excited about it. G.K. Chesterton, I just feel like he is going to be a favorite of mine once I dive in and start reading his stuff. So very excited about this one. And then my last nonfiction is Practical Theology, Spiritual Direction from St. Thomas Aquinas by Peter Kreeft. The lowdown on this is that St. Thomas Aquinas actually wrote a book called Summa Theologica, and it's actually like a multi-volume, very many books all about the summary of his theology. And Peter Kreeft essentially took those books and just condensed them down into Practical Theology and Spiritual Direction from St. Thomas Aquinas. So that's what this is. I actually feel the need to clarify something too. All three of these books, so J.I. Packer is an Anglican bishop, or was an Anglican bishop prior to his passing. And then St. Thomas and G.K. Chesterton are both actually Catholic theologians. And so I just thought I would take this opportunity to say that if you don't read outside of your theological camp or your doctrinal camp that you grew up in, I just want to take a second to highly encourage you to do so. If you stick around on my channel, you will see that I read so widely from different camps in doctrine and theology that I didn't grow up in. Some of them I don't even identify with now. Like, for example, there's a lot of things about Catholic doctrine that I don't necessarily agree with. There's actually a lot more about Catholic doctrine that I do agree with than I thought I did if you would have asked me 5 years ago. And that's because I've read and I have widened my viewpoint, and I really have taken in the wisdom of people who have gone before me who are extremely wise. And as long as there is orthodoxy in common, I love reading from them, even if it's something that I read about, and once I do my own biblical deep dive, maybe I land in another camp. But there has been nothing more challenging and encouraging and refreshing to my own faith than to step outside that comfort zone. I do suggest that you kind of research the people that you are taking in to make sure that they are orthodox in their beliefs and that they believe the core tenets of Christianity. But if they believe those, then you are brothers and sisters in Christ, and you can shake hands across any doctrinal differences, theological differences. You can shake hands across those aisles, and I promise you will be a better, more well-rounded Christian for it, and you will know what you believe so much better when you challenge yourself in that way. So I just wanted to take that opportunity because I am not Catholic and I'm also not Anglican, but I'm very excited about all three of these books. And yeah, so in talking about them, I just thought this is a good opportunity. I probably should talk about that because some of y'all might be soups confused about what Kaitlin believes based on all the different people that I read. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And also just to be a disclaimer that if I ever talk about a nonfiction book on my channel, that doesn't always necessarily mean that I agree 100% with that person's theological views or even their actions in general. So I just want to throw that out there. Okay, moving on to fantasy because I'm so excited about it. I have quite the little stack here of fantasy. I'm just gonna be real honest. I don't gather much from fantasy descriptions, like synopses on the back of the books. I don't really gather much from those. So hopefully I can tell you guys fairly well what these books are about, but if not, feel free to look them up on Goodreads if your girl is making no sense. The first one I want to talk about is Genesis Awakens. This is the first in the Footnail series by A.K. Howard. This book is about a girl named Jen, and her grandfather passes away. She returns home for the funeral from college, and when she gets there, she's very confused because the family isn't reacting to the death of her grandfather the way that she would have expected, and they're not really talking about what happened. There's not a lot of grieving going on, And so she separates herself and goes out to her grandfather's shop to just have a moment of grief for herself. And while she's in there, she finds these nails, and when she touches one of them, she actually has like a prophetic vision. And come to find out, that specific nail is actually traced back to one of the nails used in the crucifixion. And so she goes on this journey to figure out what that means for her family, and it's actually super short for a fantasy, which in a way kind of concerns me because I just don't know how deeply you can build a world in 250 pages, but you know, C.S. Lewis did it in a lot less in a children's novel. So who am I to judge before I read it? But I'm really excited about this one. Okay, next up we have The Light Between Worlds by Laura Weymouth. This kind of strikes me as a Chronicles of Narnia meets the Wayward Children series. I think that's the name of the series, by Shauna Maguire. And the reason I say this is because this follows two sisters who are in World War II London, and they are actually pulled to another world. That's giving the Chronicles of Narnia vibes. But once they get pulled back to their world, it's like no time has passed. And so one of the sisters desperately wants to go back to the woodlands where they were taken to. Peep Auburn's tail in the shot. And then the other sister desperately just wants to like move on with her life. But the sister who wants to go back to the woodlands ends up kidnapped and missing. And so the other sister has to go kind of on a journey to find her. And I don't know if she makes her way back to the woodlands, but it just sounds really, really good. It sounds like the maybe sisterhood bonds are going to be really fun to explore. Very excited about it. And also I just really love this cover. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, I'm just really excited about it. Next up is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This needs no explanation. I feel like everybody probably knows what this is about, but it would be my first Brandon Sanderson. I actually have quite a few on my shelves, but I have not gotten to him yet, and I really feel like this year is going to be the year that I try him. And I just know I'm going to enjoy his writing. I think that his other series have kind of intimidated me because I know that they're high fantasy, but I think that this is a really good like toe dipping point for Brandon Sanderson, especially because I think it's a little bit more fairy tale-esque. I mean, he wrote it for his wife. Excuse me? Like, sign me up. So romantic, I'm in. And it follows Tress, and I know she's a collector of cups, and something about the Emerald Sea, if she touches it, she could die. And so she has to go on this journey to find a sorceress and avoid the water. That's all I really know, and that's probably a terrible descriptor, but it just sounds really good. This cover is also beautiful. I just know I'm gonna love this. Next up is Saints and Monsters by Ellen McGinty. This is the first in the Kingdoms Must Fall book series. This, guys, I'm not gonna lie, the whole reason I bought this book is because there are dragons involved, and I very much lately have been in my dragon era, if you will, okay? I listened to two podcasts back to back. They both just happened to come out around the same time, and both of the series were about dragons. So the first one was The Haunted Cosmos, which I have mentioned a million times on my channel, and I'm gonna mention it a million more because it is so good. But that podcast did an entire series about dragons and dragon lore, and I just ate it up. And right about the time it came out, the Bible Project actually had another series on their podcast about dragons in scripture. Again, just dragon lore, symbolism, all the things, and I ate it up. So I'm very excited about this one. It follows a girl who is second in line to the throne. She's actually not the heir, her older sister is, but the night of her older sister's coronation, she actually is cursed and she can't take the throne. So our main character has to assume the throne and fight for her kingdom, but in order to become queen, she actually has to defeat a dragon first. But I think that there's some kind of connection between her and the dragon. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like her and the dragon actually have to work together to free their kingdom from a curse. So it just sounds really good. Like I said, I'm very into the whole dragon thing lately, so hopefully I will read this, love it, and continue to try to find books with dragons. If you have recommendations, please leave them down below because I would love to pick up more books in the future that kind of surround this dragon theme, if you will. Okay, and the last fantasy book that I am hauling today is Blood of the Stars. I am so excited about this one. I think this is going to be my next fantasy pickup. This is by Karen Norton, and this is the first in the Half-Light Chronicles series. First of all, I absolutely love this blue and the compass rose and the arrow. I don't know, just something about this cover is really drawing me in. But this is about a prince of a kingdom and his very best friend. He promised to protect his friend, Eliana, I think is maybe how you say it. They grew up together, and he promised as kids that he would always protect her. She actually has magic in her blood. I think that that's why he always promised to protect her, because he knew that that was a risk that she was living with. Sure enough, she ends up getting kidnapped, and he kind of blames himself, and I think he goes on a journey to try to find her. Meanwhile, you're also getting her perspective, I believe, as the captive, and she was kidnapped by an opposing kingdom that's trying to use her magic and her blood against her own kingdom. I am just really excited about it. It sounds fantastic. Just something about the storyline, the cover, it's all just really drawing me in. So I'm very, very excited about this one. She's a chunk, okay? She's a chunk, but I just think she's gonna be a favorite. Next up, we're switching gears. That was all of the fantasy. So let's do some cozier mysteries, and then we're gonna go into some classic mysteries because I've been super into that lately, and then we'll round out with just the randoms. So first of all, in the cozy mysteries, we're gonna talk about Murder Comes by Mail. This is by A.H. Gabhart. This was a random impulse buy at Mardell, and it is about a sheriff in Hidden Springs Valley, and the sheriff actually saves someone from committing suicide, like jumping off of a bridge, and that same sheriff starts getting mail that is like pictures and letters about a murder that has happened, and the suspect is actually the very person that he saved from suicide. So I don't know, it kind of actually sounds a little bit heavy for a cozy, but I am here for it. And like I said, just a random buy at Mardell, and I'm hoping I like it. Next up is a Murder, She Wrote to add to my collection. This is Blood on the Vine. Jessica Fletcher has gone to a vineyard, which, yes please, okay? And she has to work with Scotland Yard in this one to solve a murder, and it just sounds really good. I'm a huge Murder, She Wrote fan, if you didn't know that already. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. Honestly, I fall asleep to it 6 out of 7 nights probably. It's just the best, and I have really enjoyed the couple of Murder, She Wrote books that I've read, and so I'm glad to add this to my little collection. Judge me if you will, but just know I won't accept that judgment. Like, you can judge, that's your prerogative, but I will not accept it about this next book, okay? Because I'm so excited about it. This is a Sugar Creek Amish mystery series. This is Blessings in Disguise, and it's by Nancy Mell, who is actually like one of my favorite Christian suspense authors. So I do think it's kind of funny that she wrote a cozy mystery, but I am very much here for it. This is the first in the series. I do believe that this actually isn't a murder mystery. I believe that it's just like a mystery that they have to solve in general, but it follows a woman who has kind of decided that she needs a slower pace of life. So she moves to an Amish community, and while she's there, she's like walking around in a corn maze at a community like festival, and she overhears 2 men kind of talking menacingly. Menacingly? Is that a word? Who knows? But you get the point. And then she finds like a note in her Bible that's very like ominous, and I think she just goes on the hunt to figure out who's writing these notes, what were they talking about, that kind of a thing. I don't think that there is an actual murder involved in this, but I'm excited about it. It sounds very much up my alley, very much my speed, and I'm excited about it. So looking forward to this one. And then next is actually an arc that I am so excited about. This is Puzzle Me a Murder by Roz Noonan. This actually comes out in July 23rd, and this is an Alice Pepper Lonely Hearts and Puzzle Club mystery, okay? Puzzles, cozy mystery, Beatles reference. Is there something that's more Kaitlin? Who knows? We're gonna find out when we read it. This is about Alice Pepper, and she is recently divorced. She is spending her time, instead of being lonely, with her puzzle club ladies. And I think one of those ladies ends up being suspected of murdering her own husband, and Alice knows it was not her. So she goes on a mission to clear her name. I am truly so excited about this. I am positive that there are probably cozies out there kind of surrounding a puzzle club or a puzzle shop. I actually think that there are quite a few coming out this year, which I think is kind of interesting that there's so many new releases kind of surrounding that. It's the running joke, if you don't know, that if you have any hobby in the entire world, like underwater basket weaving, probably a cozy for that. But I actually genuinely don't know that I've ever read a puzzle themed cozy, and I'm here for it. Okay, and lastly, I'm kind of putting this at the end of my cozies and the beginning of my mystery classics because I feel like it kind of fits into both categories, but this is Borrower of the Night by Elizabeth Peters. So Elizabeth Peters is an author that I've been wanting to get to for quite some time now. This series was specifically pitched to me as kind of the Mummy meets cozy mystery, and I'm so here for it. So this is the first in the Vicky Bliss mystery series, and Vicky Bliss is an art historian, and I just think that in each book she goes to research or to verify historical artifacts and art, and she gets kind of caught up into kind of the dark side of that whole world, antiquities and art theft and all of that. It sounds super good to me. I have also just heard amazing things about Elizabeth Peters' writing, so I'm very excited about this and so glad to finally own it because I've been wanting a physical copy and they're kind of hard to come by because this was written and originally published back in 1973. So a little bit older and a little bit harder for me to find, but my Half Price Books had it and I'm so excited. So like I said, that I'm considering kind of a more classic novel. These next three are truly crime classics. I recently read Jumping Jenny by Anthony Berkeley and really enjoyed it. Loved the writing. If you don't know, Anthony Berkeley is one of the golden age detective novel authors that are kind of very famous for spearheading that genre. And we all know my love for Agatha Christie. Okay, Agatha is always gonna be my queen. But that being said, I really want to explore that genre a little bit more and read more authors from that time, from the golden age of detective novels. And so I have a few that I'm really excited to get to and that I got recently. So the first is actually another Anthony Berkeley, and this one is Murder in the Basement. So this is the first in the Roger Sheringham mystery series. This is the same mystery series that Jumping Jenny was, but this I believe is the first one, and it follows a newlywed couple who ends up finding a dead body underneath the house that they just bought, and the inspector reaches out to amateur sleuth Roger Sheringham to get his help on the case. And I really loved Roger's character. Like, I really loved his character in Jumping Jenny, so I'm very excited to continue on in this series and to kind of backtrack and start from where it all began. Next up is The Crime at Black Dudley by Marjorie Allingham. Again, just another golden age detective novel. This is actually blurbed by Agatha. It says Marjorie Allingham stands out like a shining light by Agatha Christie. So if Agatha gives her stamp of approval, I'm probably gonna give mine. And lastly is Dorothy L. Sayers. This is a collection of Lord Peter Wimsey's mystery series. I have heard so many good things about Dorothy Sayers. Dorothy Sayers is actually the author of Whose Body, and that is a Lord Peter Wimsey's mystery series. I started that one on my Kindle, but the library hold for it came up, and so I had to give it back, and I never got back to it. And so I'm very excited to have my own collection of the Lord Peter Wimsey mystery series because I was really enjoying it. So excited to dive into this one too. Okay guys, we are almost done. We just have a handful left, and these are just kind of random books that I've recently gotten. I don't really know that they fit into like one specific category. I guess maybe women's fiction, but the first is Blackberry Beach by Irene Hannon. This honestly was a cover buy because it just very much like reminded me of summer, and I think it's going to be a really good summer read. And then I have quite a few Amish love stories. Again, we accept no judgment here, okay? This is A Season of Love by Amy Clipston. She is the author of another series that I really enjoyed. I don't remember what the actual name of the series is. Maybe the Amish Bake Shop series, but I read a couple from that series and just really loved them, and so I'm excited to kind of dive into some of her other books. I have a few here. So I have A Season of Love, which is a Kaufman Amish bakery book, and then I also have The Cherished Quilt, which is an Amish heirloom novel. Very excited. And the last one of hers that I have is an Amish singing, and I think that this is just actually 4 short stories. Hymn of Praise, Amazing Grace, Great is Thy Faithfulness, and O Holy Night. So this is just a collection of 4 romance short stories. So very excited about all of those. Like I said, they're all Amish romance books. I mean, come on. Who doesn't love that? I mean, actually a lot of people probably don't love that, but not this girl. And then the last one that I have is Home All Along. This is an Amish secrets novel by Beth Wiseman. So all the Amish books, and then I do just have one lonely contemporary romance on my list, but it's one that I am over the moon about, and that is Love for a Lifetime by Mandy Blake. These covers are not my favorite, okay? They're very cheesy, but don't let that stop you. Mandy Blake has so quickly become one of my favorite authors, and this is the second in the Love in Blackwater book series that she is working through, and the first one was Love in a Storm, and then this one, Love for a Lifetime. I am so excited about it. I literally know nothing about it except that Mandy Blake wrote it, and that's enough for me. So I definitely wanted to share this one. I literally just got this the other day. So that is the last one. That's gonna wrap us up for our small little book haul that doesn't feel actually that small, but hopefully maybe one of these stood out to you. Maybe you hadn't heard about one of these, or you had before but you haven't heard about it in a while. And yeah, I just really hope you guys got maybe some good recommendations, or maybe just some validation that you're not the only one buying too many books. Either way, I am happy to provide either one of those things, okay? But I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next bookish video. Bye!
Daydreaming got me thinking that this can